Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. Before we get into today's video, just a little caveat, I'm kind of not feeling well, so I'm going to try to be articulate as possible, but it might all go down the drain today and I need a little forgiveness. So with that being said, today's topic is all about fashion's billion-dollar issue and why I find it so infuriating that they've caused this whole mess themselves and they're not taking responsibility for it. So let's just get into it. Let's explain a little first. This term billion-dollar issue comes from an article I read recently on, I think, Vogue Business. It refers to the $1 billion of stock that companies are currently holding and haven't managed to shift yet. And really, this problem is not new. It's always been this way, that brands have like excess inventory that they hold on to because of one thing or another, which we'll get into. But it's been really exacerbated by the pandemic. Like I said, this is not a new issue, but a lot of us became aware of it when those TikToks came out about, I think it was Coach slashing their bags and like the trash walker or whatever her username is, I'm not really sure. I'll put it on the screen. She stumbled across some Coach bags and Coach merchandise which had just been left out on the street, and it was like slashed so no one could use it, no one could resell it or repurpose it, but that was the way the brand was getting rid of their merchandise. And there was literally thousands of dollars worth of merchandise on the street just left there. And this kind of opened up a whole can of worms of public discourse and the public finding out that this is not something that is limited to Coach. This is something luxury in particular does all the time. They choose to get rid of their merchandise by burning it, by slashing it, by, otherwise dumping it somewhere, rather than choosing to mark it down or choosing to repurpose it or, not produce it in the first place, which is the root of the issue, and we'll get into that. Recently, some statistics came out that kind of showed the extent of the issue. Up to 9% of all textiles made in Europe don't make it to the market and are destroyed before they're used. Globally, around 21% of all textiles created aren't sold for one reason or another, but 1/5 of that 21% is immediately destroyed or like destroyed before even seeing the light of day. Now that's insane when you think how many clothes are produced globally year round. 21% of that doesn't get used at all, and 1/5 of that is immediately destroyed. That's a massive, massive amount of clothes. That's like thousands of clothes that are just like destroyed. No one can use them. Gone. What a waste. So back to when I said this is an issue particularly in luxury fashion. When you think about the extent of how bad this is, when you see the numbers, you start to get an idea of the scale of the issue. So LVMH, which is a fashion house that holds lots of well-known brands, you'll know some of them that I'm popping up on the screen. At the end of last year, LVMH wrote down 3.2 billion euros in inventory because of obsolescence. That means they just wrote it off completely. They'd created these products and they'd just decided to get rid of them for whatever reason. They quoted obsolescence or lack of sales prospect, but what that actually means, we need to talk about in a little bit. Now, Kering, which is another fashion house, which you will definitely know some of the other brands for, had a similar overstock problem. Theirs amounted to 1.5 billion euros. So about half of LVMH, but LVMH is a much bigger fashion house and houses a lot more brands. This is also impacting, mid-tier fashion brands too, high street brands, ones that are encroaching between high street and luxury. But luxury houses do seem to have it the worst, and I want to get into maybe why that is. Overproduction is kind of built into the fashion business model. It's intended to maximize production efficiency. So if you're ordering in bigger batches, it works out cheaper for everyone. Cheaper for the manufacturer who's creating the items, cheaper for the company to buy fabrics in bulk. And typically investors understand this, and they understand that this kind of planned obsolescence or planned waste is built into the company's profits and is largely covered by the sales of the other items. But why is this so bad for luxury brands in particular recently? So over the pandemic, obviously no one was going out and no one really had money, and that those two things have Well, clearly we're going out a bit more now, but still there's a cost of living crisis and no one really has money right now. And that has directly impacted luxury sales. And I've been saying for a while on this channel that luxury fashion is struggling right now. And that's why brands are putting their prices up to try to contend with this. Just to give you an idea, across the whole fashion industry, the value of excess inventory for the spring-summer 2020 collections across the whole fashion industry was estimated at 140 billion euros. So 140 billion euros worth of clothing was ordered with the expectation that brands would be able to sell it to people going on holiday, just living their lives in summer. But then obviously we went into lockdown and they'd ordered these clothes before all of that because production cycle is just like that. So brands sort of, this is what exacerbated the issue so much, the pandemic and being locked in. And since then, it seems like the problems have only just gotten worse. We know this for a fact. We've been living in the same world as brands, whatever. But they have not been able to shift that stock and it's just been snowpiling, and this is why it's come to such a big head now and it's called the $1 billion issue. So how have brands been dealing with this? We saw obviously those TikToks of luxury fashion brands like Coach slashing their inventory to try get rid of it without having to discount it or, you know, tarnish their image as a luxury brand in any way. But now there's new legislation coming out in various countries to try put a stop to this. For example, the EU recently brought out legislation about the destruction of unsold goods and how this would be banned going forward. That kind of puts brands in a sticky situation, and this is what the article was trying to talk about. But what I want to talk about is the way that the article changed the narrative, or I guess chose the narrative that brands are the victim of all these different circumstances, when I believe that brands have just done this to themselves. So for example, the article was talking about what to do with the issue, and they were suggesting different items like AI or, you know, discounted retailers and stuff. And it seems that their focus was on fixing the issue, and I completely get that. And also I could not read the article because it was behind a paywall, so I could only see what they were promoting on social media. But from my perspective and what I've seen on these things that they've tried to promote, there's been no emphasis on the fact that brands could be doing something great to fix this issue. And it's literally the simplest way. It's just stop producing so much. But obviously that's what brands don't want to hear. They're still in this mindset that instead of like turning off the tap, they're trying to, you know, plug the holes with different materials and see what works. You get the metaphor. But if we turn the tap off, if we stop producing clothes and they use that time to sell the clothes they have or the inventory piling up in the background, then this issue wouldn't exist. What's also so infuriating is that luxury fashion is literally the best placed to adopt new sustainable methods like made to order. Like, people are already paying big amounts for luxury fashion, which is, you know, the stigma surrounding made to order. People say it's too expensive. People are paying £10,000 for a Chanel handbag now. I think they can afford the made to order prices. And if brands were pivoting to this more, you know, sustainable option, it would not only fix the issue, they would stop this whole overproduction issue because they would know exactly how much they need to be producing. But it would also foster a real like sense of exclusivity about the brand. Like, only the people that are ordering can shop these items. It would be really intentional purchases. People would value it more. I just think it's a win-win for everyone. Like, Chanel's prices have literally gone up 75% in the past 5 years. How can they not afford to produce less and just get that revenue from the increased prices? I don't understand. It's all corporate greed, and how far can corporate greed go? It's just never ending, and I just think, how can people still sustain this? How can shareholders and CEOs keep looking for more when they can see the impact it's having on the environment? I just don't understand. Final point that I had is, what's interesting is that fast fashion companies and ultra fast fashion companies especially do the exact opposite. So they tend to buy in to a lot of different styles and buy a small amount of those styles. So they might not have the same inventory problems as luxury fashion, but this does not mean that they are morally better. And often I do see companies like Shein trying to fabricate their sustainability by saying that they don't overproduce, by saying that everything is essentially made to order because they're listening to demand and they're creating what people are buying. But we have to understand that this is not the solution either, and what they're doing is just as bad in different ways. So don't listen to them when they try to say that they're sustainable for this reason. Anyway, thank you for watching. I'm sorry if this was a bit all over the place, a bit random, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I will hopefully see you in a new video soon. Thanks so much. Bye.